welcome to episode number 7 of our weekly guitar hangs with Nick Brownell in Wellington, myself in Auckland. And I don't know how we managed to, but we managed to do 7 in a row without missing out. So, yeah, a little pat on the back to both of us.
We're here.
Yeah. Had a busy weekend, as usual.
Yeah, bits and pieces on and stuff. No gigs this weekend, so that was kind of good. In some ways, but
nice.
I'd rather be playing, of course. But always lots to do. Playing things and trying to get it all together. What about you? Did you have any gigs?
No, but I've got some coming up the next weekend, the coming weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Oh,
I'm going to be doing Sydney, Adelaide, and Perth with Bollywood artist Vishal and
that's
Shekhar.
right. I remember you saying. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I used to play with them for almost more than 10 years, and before I moved back to New Zealand, and since they were coming to this part of the world, they asked me to jump on.
Awesome.
So most of the tunes I already kind of know from, they're burned into memory.
Yeah.
So that's one less thing. But there are a couple of new tunes which I just need to brush up over.
And do you have to have a rehearsal
And,
period for that, or you just turn up and do it?
No, it's probably at soundcheck that we'll just get together and just run the new songs and make sure it's all good. We do get plenty of time at soundcheck, usually a couple of hours without people bugging you and saying you need to get off the stage or whatever. So that's kind of factored in. But I've been kind of just wondering what to take, and thankfully I've got 2 bags now on the flight. So one's the guitar, and the other I got this. I think I can reach it actually. One sec.
I'll play a cheesy interlude while you're getting it.
Yeah, it's this road case kind of a thing, almost like a Pelican.
Oh yeah,
style.
yeah.
And it just happens that the Pedal Train Junior fits exactly like it was made for.
Did you get that from J-Car by any chance, or one of those sort of places?
They are the same supply. I got it from Sound Division Surplus Stock.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, of course. Looks good. And it fits a Pedal Train Junior.
Exactly, like boom.
Magic. Is that with any foam, or you don't need foam?
Yeah, you've got 2 layers of foam. And,
awesome.
So I picked out the little holes where the pedal train feet go in, so it's like pretty secure. And then what you can do is you can take out this foam, put your cables behind it,
and then put the foam back in.
and then put the foam back in, and it closes in.
Awesome.
And then you've got these nice tight. I think they're some degree of waterproof.
And you'll check that you'll check that case in, or are you going to carry it on?
I'll check that in. That's around 12 kilos, the whole pedal board in that. So well within. I think I've got one. Each bag is 23. Almost makes me want to, kind of figure out a way of mounting this to the guitar.
Yeah.
And then that's just one bag.
I've tried to do that before. It's really risky though, because if the 2 parts become separated, they only have one bag tag on it and it's gone.
Yeah. Thankfully, it's a short trip.
Yeah.
So I can, just pack light with the clothes. Probably just dunk everything in the backpack, I think. And I've got like a nice big one. So that will be my carry-on, and these 2 will go as check-in with Apple AirTags. Very important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, my Apple AirTag keeps pinging off today and going bang, bang, bang. Because my guitar's actually, with Rob Matthews, the tech, it's getting a setup. He's, it's been a bit buzzy in the middle of the frets, which is just, I think, the temperature change around here at the moment. I haven't had it that long, so it's sort of settling in. So he was going to do some work and get it all set up. Also, I'm finding the tone pot. I changed the pots for CTS pots rather than the generic Asian variety that were in there, the smaller pots. And now the tone control doesn't wind off quite right. So he's going to experiment with some different pots and stuff. So
CTS, I hate to say, but the quality is turned to shit these days.
CTS.
Like I've had like such bad luck with the newer stock of. During the 90s and everything, they were like really good. But I found the Dunlop ones and the Damasio ones.
Damasio are generally pretty good.
The thing is, like, CTS also contracts smaller batches to other, resellers or whatever. So if then they have a tighter tolerance or something, it's quite possible you could get a better port from, one
Well,
of those
I bought them
brands.
from Rob, so Rob just, he goes through them, and I'm sure he picks out the good ones as opposed to the not good. But yeah, my AirTag keeps pinging me, telling me that my guitar, it says you left your guitar behind, because the AirTag, I keep an AirTag in that mono case all the time. And it's actually it's a really handy thing. I don't know if you've ever seen that guy. I think he's a Kiwi. I think it's called Metatag or Megatag or something like that. He's got a YouTube channel, and he's a Kiwi, but he's based in Germany. And what he does is he sends stuff around the world with AirTags in them and just films it and makes videos about it. But he sent one to Kim Jong-un in North Korea, and of course it didn't arrive. And then DHL said, "No, we delivered it or something," and he said, "No, you didn't. I can see the AirTag. You're lying," and he makes all these videos. It's pretty funny. He got a bike and he put an AirTag on a bike, and someone stole the bike, and then he knew where it was to get it back. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Crazy.
But yeah, AirTag for sure is a must, I reckon. And they're not that dear, $50. I mean, for peace of mind.
Yeah. So what I thought is, because we got a question from the last episode. Finally, we have people asking us questions.
Yeah, people come on, ask questions. You got Warren here, who knows, is like one of the biggest guitar nerds I know. Ask him, he knows stuff.
Okay, it says, could you elaborate more on the starting point for setting up live sound? What would some of the absolute essential elements that you or Nick would recommend if you're just starting to take your material live? I guess, the choice of gear and stuff like that is quite personal to, the kind of sounds that you want, and more importantly, what kind of gig that you would want to play, because I would have a very different rig, the way I would set things up from a Black Star Blues gig to this Vishal and Shaker one, for example. Because here the thing is, the guitar is part of a much more dense soundscape. There's a lot of there's 2 keyboard players, drums, 2 percussion players, bass, and obviously, 2 vocals. So the guitar kind of has to have a certain place which is, enough to be present in the mix, but not enough to swamp over everything else. So what I thought would be a good idea was just to run you through a few sounds that I'm using. So I'll put a picture of the pedal board at this point. But what I've got is the HX Stomp that's doing just amp models, a bit of pitch, an octave, stereo delay, and a shimmer.
Maybe you could show when you do the edit, just pop that up on the screen if you got, because...
Yep, exactly. You've got that.
Cool.
There. So now there are 2 amps that I've got. One is a JDM 45 and the other is a Soldano Crunch channel. So both those amps are very... you're able to shape them with pedals in front, different boost pedals. So I've got 3 of them. I've got a Maxon SD9 as usual, exotic AC booster, which I did a slight mod that takes off some of the bass in the front. I just changed one capacitor. And finally the Big Noise prototype. It's called the Slight Return because it's based on the Roger Mayer Voodoo one, and he just added a 3-way mid boost and a bass cut, because that pedal has a little bit too much bass. So sometimes on some stages you don't want that, humongous low, and then you just want to tighten things up. It's great for that sort of thing. So it's very easy to kind of, especially like with a twin or something like that, get a good clean sound. But in this case, my clean sound is coming from the JDM 45, which is slightly gritty already. So I'll just show you what it sounds like without it. And one other thing I have to mention is I've got the Aux Stomp that's running the cab emulation, a bit of plate reverb, and I dialed in a chorus on one of the delay settings. You can do a chorus as well. So I've got chorus and reverb from the Aux Stomp, which is right next to the pedal board, again, as you can see in the picture. So just the JDM 45 through the aux is... Now that my volume on full, it's going to start gritting up a little bit. With the humbucker,
it sounds big and full though, right? It's not. You're not going for a bright thin sound. You're going for a full thick sound.
Though having said that, that's the reverb in. Now, if I do want that sound, what I can do is I can either do the half coil split on the humbucker that I spoke about earlier.
It's still quite big though, right? It's still none of your tones that you've showed there are thin tones. They're big, full-bodied tones, right?
They are, yeah. But the thing is, they don't take up that much space in the mix. That it'll work well with the bass, for example, without getting in the way, of that. There's a little bit of a low mid scoop as well, where the bass normally occupies. Anyway, so that's probably the brightest, and then the in between, the middle and humbucker. A little bit of delay. It's like.
And are you in stereo at the moment or mono?
Yeah, stereo. I'm in stereo.
So will you run stereo when you do the gig to the front of house, or?
Yep, they'll have a stereo.
And they have a good sound engineer to take care of that, or what do you think?
Well, they have a good front of house engineer, but I think the monitor engineer may be from the sound rental company, as far as I know, because they haven't mentioned there being a monitor engineer from the India group coming over. So it could just be that, there'll be a show file or something that's handed over, and then the usual running and stuff like that. That will do it. So anyway, so now here comes the slight return on. So now with the volume on full, it's gonna be broken up, but then back off the volume and it fills out the mid range a bit.
And the top sweetens.
Yep. Then you've got the humbucker. If you want, you can get it to growl a bit.
Will there be much call for that on this gig, do you think? Some sort of...
Sorry?
Will there be a lot of call for that on this gig? Like bridge humbucker distortion, or...
Yeah, there's heaps, because like one of the funny thing is the very first gig I did with these guys, it was at a college in this place called Pilani, which was like a small college town. And the amp provided was a JCM 900 SLX. I don't know if you've ever played those.
No.
But those amps don't really have a clean.
No.
And the thing is, there are 2 channels, and it was kind of stuck on the high gain thing permanently. So I told them, I said, look, there's a problem with the amp and everything, but I'm kind of, just trying to get it to clean up a bit. They said, no, it's okay, just rock out if you have to.
Huh?
So I said, okay, fine, because they felt it brought like a nice energy to it, and then that became a thing. They were like, okay, fine, that works great, so just go with that. So all my clean, funky things, all those went out of the window, and they just wanted these big power chords just because looking at what's going on, like in terms of like a lot of percussion especially, it's very rare that those little clean bits would even, cut through. But then that distortion has a way of doing that. So, we could look at some of the other distortion tones as well. But with regards to the JDM 45, that's kind of like my cleanish sound. And then I've got do that sound, the Arion chorus in. So this would be cool, because there's a song like you're playing this like a cleanish in the verses, and then for the chorus you just kick that Arion and it will go. And it almost gives the part a bit of a lift.
Yeah.
Just
almost sounds like a Leslie, doesn't it, with that sort of sound?
That's exactly what I was going for. And I heard it on this Mike Landau song called That Day, and I figured, what chorus is that? And it turned out to be this...
He's been using those Arion choruses for like ever, hasn't he?
Apparently the story goes that this pedal used to be like a junk thing. If you couldn't afford a Boss, you would buy like an Arion or whatever. And then he was at Bob Bradshaw's shop when they looked at this old twin that someone had brought in, and in the twin was this Arion. So just like for fun, they decided to plug it in. And they was like, man, that actually sounds great. And then he, I think, discovered that it holds up really well with distortion. So you can pile heaps of gain, and this thing will still not flake out or anything like that.
The only thing with them was the build quality wasn't the best, were they? They were quite plasticky, some of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, a lot of people try to mod them, and you see these modded versions and stuff like that, but they always end up modding the SCHZ version, which was the later one. For some reason, that never sounds like the SCH one. So if you're looking for that sound, you're better off getting the SH1 itself. There's a version made in Japan and there's one made in Sri Lanka, and both sound fine. Just avoid the Z.
Gotcha. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So and on the Boss ES5, there's a cool function where you hit that switch one more time, it'll do another function.
Yeah.
So that same second patch, if I hit it again, it switches the Arion to a Univibe. So it's almost like a slow swirling Leslie, and you switch to a fast one, But the thing is, you don't get the ramp up.
No, yeah. But
yeah, for that you need the Eventide H9 or something like that.
But still, it's a cool sound and nice to have that extra function.
It is.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And so those are the primary sounds you're going to have, right? Like a clean, various shades of clean, the chorusing Leslie type thing, and a couple of flavors of overdrive, really, isn't it? And that's all within two cases that you can travel with.
Pretty much. And for the overdrive, now what I'll do is switch to the Solano Crunch channel with the AC booster in front. And most of the time I'll have this on with the chorus as well. So it's this, big wall kind of thing, almost double tracked kind of sounding thing, and that seems to work well. By itself, without the chorus, it may be a little dry sounding. I don't know that even without the reverb. But with the chorus on, that kind of gets used a lot. And then there's also a lead sound, which is the SD9. And then the same one with the Univibe on. There's a couple of moments in the set where you kind of have this little bit of a solo thing that happens, and then that Univibe kind of thing is useful because you're playing like slow melodic lines, but it makes them a bit more,
gives them a bit more width
vocal
too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Those are the main 5 that I've got on this board.
That's cool, man. That's great. A great setup and really portable, right? So
yeah.
Further to that question, for a live setup, I'd say probably that if you're starting out with that kind of stuff, to answer that guy's question, a guitar and an amp is right, the two essentials, right? You got to start there, and I'd say work on getting a really good sound with just your guitar and your amp, whatever you have, right? If you don't have an amp that's suitable for a gig, hire one, borrow one, do whatever you got to do, but you need to get a quality amp and your guitar, right? And work on getting a sound with just those two, and then add in whatever pedals you play, depending on the style of music you play or whatever. And I'd say that that's really the essentials for playing live is guitar amp and some kind of pedals. And you could use a modeler. I mean, modelers are great. Amps are good. But I think if you're starting, it's always good to start with an amp so that you know what you're trying to achieve. I mean, really, probably one of the most versatile guitars you can get is a Strat, right? So, I mean, I'm playing a version of a Strat. You're playing a Strat with a humbucker, like a version of a Strat. So, I'd say as a live performance instrument, that's a really good place to start. You can pretty much cover just about anything, or a Telecaster if you've got that. I mean, and then once you get started and you've played a bit, you'll start to sort of tweak it towards what you want to do, what the gig requires.
Yeah, I mean, just like a drive pedal and a delay pedal would be a good starting point, if your amp doesn't have overdrive or reverb or whatever. Those, I mean, if you're running into a clean amp, those would be just like 2 pedals which you could instantly just start gigging with.
Totally, yep. And reverb if you don't have reverb on your amp, because to me it's like I find it really hard to play without reverb, and it's not that I can't do it. Like I actually, for rhythm funky stuff, I much prefer to play that bone dry.
Yeah.
But I find without reverb, if I have a sound like this, it's got a bit of delay and reverb on it. But if I don't have that, like if I turn it off now, I'll show you what I mean. Right, that's bone dry. What'll happen is I'll play something like, and then because there's nothing in the gap, I feel like I have to play. And there's nothing happening here. Whereas if I put those 2 back on, sort of, you know, so I find with reverb, if I have reverb, it just makes me play less notes, and I don't tend to.
Yeah.
I tend to overplay. I tend to not overplay, if you know what I mean. So yeah, reverb, delay.
There's a little snippet from the Tim and Pete guitar show where Tim says, "I'll take the reverb off, but I don't want to."
I know, right? Man, I wonder what's ever happened to that. It seems like they've sort of dropped doing the Tim and Pete show, and I really liked that. I thought it was great. You know, two very different kind of players, but found a middle ground and did their thing, you know, and yeah.
I think they're both really busy, so just a matter of finding the time to do it, because Pete's touring and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so I've got a gig this weekend. I had 3 gigs this weekend, but 2 of them have been cancelled. One was at Hashigozaki. I was supposed to play there with Jacob Randall and Blaine Fitzpatrick. We've had this sort of trio, power trio, guitar, bass, drums for a little while now, and we do a lot of sort of Hendrixy type stuff and things like that. It's really fun, but funky groove stuff as well. But yeah, we were due to play on Hashigo on Saturday the 9th, and they're closing their doors on Saturday the 8th. So it's like, damn it. And then I had this gig on Sunday, which was up the coast, a duo with that trumpeter that I filmed the thing with, I was telling you about last episode. But that got cancelled for some reason. I'm like, what the heck? So I've got one gig this week with a really lovely singer, Greer Perinara is her name, and she's fantastic. She doesn't really gig much these days. She's just had a baby, like, very recently. She's got kids. And her husband is TJ Perinara, the All Black. So because he's off playing rugby games and doing all that stuff all the time, she doesn't get much of a chance to do gigs. So when this gig came up, I thought, I'll drag her out and do this gig. So we're just playing duo. So I'll probably play acoustic guitar on that. Cool. And duo gigs are really challenging, I find. You know, it's like, it'll be all fine, and then it's like, right, time for a solo. And you got to try and cover the whole lot. And I find in those instances, probably the best thing to do, like whatever the song is just try and incorporate the melody into your chord line, right? So if the chords are, say, G minor and A minor, maybe I'm going to solo over that. See, I'm sort of incorporating the two to... so there'll be a lot of that, because it's 3 sets too, 3 45-minute sets.
Wow.
And we've only played together a couple of times. So just coming over tomorrow, we're going to have a rehearsal, which will be a couple of hours of just picking songs that we both know, and then do it on the gig. So, yeah.
I think you're a braver man than me. I'd be resorting to a loop pedal if I had a solo.
Yeah, I was tempted to, and I've done that before, but I'm kind of like... Part of me also wants to just man up and just do it. But we'll see. Maybe I'll chicken out.
Yeah, you've got the chops to do it, so yeah. I'm sure
I've done a lot of solo gigs before, so I'm sort of used to doing it. So this is really like a solo gig plus a singer. And she's got a great voice. She's really lovely. So it'll be the audience will like it. I know it'll happen. Awesome. She'll sing and they'll just be like, ah. So then all the pressure is off me. Yeah.
You just have to keep the rhythm and play the correct chords, and everyone's happy.
That's the good thing, though, is when you play duo, you can play whatever chords you want, you know. And it's funny, I remember playing duo with Bella Kalolo a bit, and I don't know if you know her. She's now a singer in Auckland. She's she's that Mother Nature in those Meridian ads, you know, in the green dress. Great singer, man. That girl can really sing. You know, we played a bunch of duo gigs, or not duo gigs, but like we'd play these Christmas carol gigs, and then they'd always go in the middle of the gig, we want you to do Silent Night, you know, just you and the vocals. So I'd always be like... and I'd put in all these like funky chords, and she'd be giving me the sideways eye. And then I remember one gig, she just started following me wherever I was going, like with her singing the melody, and I'd be like... and these sort of things. And she started going with it, and she was, because she's got a monster ear, so she was just following me and going all these lines. I remember just looking around and going, whoa, like, because she could hear it and do it. But so it gives you the freedom, like, if it's a G minor chord, well, now I can go B flat if I want to, or I can go D minor if I want to, and sort of substitute however I want, as long as it's not going to mess with the singer. Yeah. It's funny though, I remember playing with one singer and she said to me, I didn't think you could play, this is a different singer, but she said to me, I didn't think you could play duo with just guitar and voice. I said, why do you say that? And she goes, well, she said, the last guitar player I played with, he played all these chords and I couldn't find my melody. And I was like, I knew what had happened. I know who it was, and he just played too complicated, all these fancy, expensive jazz chords, and she couldn't find the tune.
Yeah. Sometimes like reharmonizations can just become an exercise of why. Exactly.
It's about finding tasteful ways to do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be Jacob Collier.
Yeah. Though I have to say, like, one of the sickest ones I heard is this Steve Lukather Christmas album called
Sentimental Christmas. That's so good, eh?
There's a one called Joe to the World.
Oh, yeah. I love that album. It's so funny. Yeah. Man, he's a crack up too.
You got Jeff Babko to do the changes, like really sick writing on that.
Have you ever met him? I'd love to meet him. Yeah.
Lukather. I saw him from like pretty close when they played in Auckland.
I'd love to meet him. He seems hilarious, eh? My friend Ben Fulton knows him kind of well, the owner of Red Witch, and he's told me so many stories about him. But my favourite Steve Lukather thing was there was this Guitar Player magazine back in the day, and they said to him, oh, you're off out on a clinic tour, and he says, yeah. He goes, I don't particularly like doing clinics, but divorce is expensive. He just seems like a crack-up guy. I reckon he'd be funny. And, man, he's got some tales too, Yeah.
Have you read his book?
I feel like I have, but I don't remember it. If I did...
It's called The Gospel According
to Luke. Yeah, I feel like I have, but I don't. I must have read it like a long time ago. I got the Slash one from one of my neighbours. He loaned me that, so I'm going to check. That's the next book I'm going to check out. And apparently it's full of hilarious stories,
It is, yeah. I've read that one. There's a few like the Clapton one I've read. Don Felder's one is like a just like a life of a musician, like the ups and downs and everything. Right.
I find a lot of those books they tend to focus on the things that are like the big dramas. Do you know what I mean? Like, like if someone had maybe an alcohol period where they were an alcoholic or whatever, they'll make the largest part of the book about that when maybe that was just a small portion of that person's life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
and they don't tell you what brand of cable they were using on
exactly. The important stuff gets left out, doesn't it? It's like, what kind of shampoo does Slash use? That's the important stuff. That's what we want to know. What shampoo does Leon Todd use? Actually, he's in Auckland at the moment.
And ask him. He is. We're probably going to run into each other on Thursday morning because I've got a flight that evening. So if he's free, he's going to let me know, and maybe we'll meet at that point.
Oh, cool. I was going to say, because with you leaving to go to Australia and him being here, I was like, I hope you actually get time to connect.
I'm going to be in Perth for 2 days, and he's going to be here. Because the initial plan was to meet when I went there. And then it just so happened that he's going to be here while I'm there.
Sounds like an interesting gig, doesn't he? He's playing with a circus, I think he said, or something. So
yeah.
So that's something I've never done. Have you ever done a circus gig? No.
I mean, I've played on plenty of gigs which seem like a circus. But
yeah, I was going to say that gig on Sunday could have been a bit like that. Oh, how funny.
There have been gigs like where I felt that, we were not the entertainment. We were there to be entertained, just like
totally
what's going on around.
Man, we had this one gig this time and it was so bad it just became a joke. So what they did was they decided to set up we were on the stage that was it felt like we were 10 feet up in the air, and it was like this function, and they decided to set up in front of the band like one of those photo booth things where people could come and get in the background. So every time they did that, the whole band would sort of lean in and sort of try and get in the photos, And the photographer was onto it after a while. She at one point, these women came and almost jumped up on stage to get their photo taken, and the photographer put the focus on us and not them. So they were actually completely out of focus in the photo. So they would have seen it and been like, what the heck? And it totally was a circus, that gig. Man, the whole thing was a shambles. But it was so funny, but not in a good way. But hey, you get paid and you got to play some music, so it could be a lot worse, you know.
A gig is a gig, you know. Can't complain. There've been these gigs in India we used to do. It used to be usually part of a bigger festival where it was called the Red Bull Tour Bus, and obviously sponsored by Red Bull and everything. So it was this bus which they had the top of the bus turned into a stage. Now the only problem was to get up onto the top of the bus, you and all your gear and everything. There was this little pulley system. There was like a wooden box where you stood into with your guitar, and then they would start the pulley, and the whole box would let's go like up to the top of the stage, and then you would have to alight, and it never quite got to the top of the bus, so you had to jump over a couple of things, and then you were on the thing. And normally I like to be a bit of a distance from the amps, maybe at least 6 feet.
If you
That's
can.
a bit of a luxury, but you were butted up like right against the amp. It
Goes through your legs, doesn't
like
it?
a foot away. Yeah, so you can't really hear it, and you're kind of relying on the monitors. But the good thing is because you're elevated over the crowd, you can turn those amps up as loud as you want. They're just blasting into the ether far away. So it was a strange one, just like learning to hear everyone else in the band, and you're kind of like all stretched out along this thin little surface on the top. And we did that a few times, but there was this one particular one where now this band was part of a bigger setup, and they had the singers and all the other people down, and we were like on the top of the bus. And then that whole thing, it started raining very heavily, and the whole place started flooding.
Oh no.
And we were like, shit, we need to get the gear and everything out of here. Thankfully most of it was like, for us it was rental, so just had your guitar and pedal board, that sort of thing, and get the hell out of there. But it was like one of those, shit, am I gonna like make it out of here with dry gear,
Oh man, I had a gig like that one time. We got rained out. They actually cancelled it. It was at the Sound Show at the Botanic Gardens in Wellington, and I was playing with a Greek band playing Greek music. It was really fun. Wow. And weird time signatures and everything sped up by the end of the song. It was that sort of gig, It was loads of fun. But the rain just bucketed down, so they said, right, that's it, the gig's off. So we all started to sort of move the gear back from the front of the stage, so it was covered. And I looked out on the road, and there was literally, it looked like a river running down the road next to the venue, and I'm like, wow. So then the sound engineer comes running along the ground that was grass and slides like a slip and slide on his stomach right along the grass right in front of us all. And it was like, man, and to think they were even considering going ahead in that sort of weather. It just par for the course. If you do an outdoor gig in Wellington, it's going to rain. It's just how it goes, Yeah. I've been messing around with this guitar today a little bit, sort of trying to find some new things from it, and I found that I did your trick, not the pencil lead in the front, but getting one of those stick things.
Oh, the art supply.
Yeah.
Thing. Yep.
So it's a Greta color, or that one. And it's it made a big difference because it was sort of getting, the tremolo is really smooth on this guitar. But I was finding I was getting the occasional ping, So I used that, because normally I just use a pencil, but it seems to work better. Like it's super smooth now, so I'm like, wow, great. Problem solved.
I think like 90% of tuning problems are down to the nut, a badly cut nut. And, like even a cheap, like Chinese Strat will infinitely be improved by just like a properly cut nut,
Yeah, I saw one of that guy. Do you ever watch that guy, Ted Woodford? Is that his name, Woodford? The luthier on YouTube, he's a YouTube channel. He's a Canadian guy. He was talking the other night about he's a really, really smart guy. He's the guy that in Canada they take the hard repairs to, the ones like the old vintage Martins that need a neck reset and that sort of stuff, Okay. But he was talking about the Gibson thing with the way to cut the slots to not have the D and the G grab, and he said if you do it this way and you do this particular thing, he said he goes, I can almost guarantee you'll have no tune almost no tuning problems with it. And I thought,
Yeah.
there you go.
What you have to do, I think, is just slant the things, because on a Gibson it goes off into these directions rather than a Strat's got a straight string pull.
Slant it.
So you have to kind of get the nut, slightly angled.
Yeah, so he holds a ruler against the tuning peg, and then to where the slot's going to be, and that's how he gets the angle right of where the string's going to go, and then he slopes the nut back that way so that there's just a fine edge for it to touch. It's not like going, it's not buried in there. And he was talking about how much your bottom three strings, he said, just have them half in the slot. Your G string is a little bit more in, and your E and B are pretty much inside the, and he said that, again, that makes a difference because it's not so much to grab there, but obviously you need more grab on the E and B or they'll fall out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting because that's been a long time problem. And you can get a thing here that pulls the strings together so that they run straight off the nut. But they look ugly as heck. So I haven't done it,
I've seen those. I think they're called the string butler or something
like that. Yeah. And I don't particularly like string trees either. I don't even know why this has one, because it's got staggered tuning posts, so it doesn't even actually need one, I don't think.
Yeah.
Maybe it is.
Look at this. So apparently this guitars come stock without any string trees. And when I bought it used, the person had installed it.
Yeah.
And they didn't realize what you have to do is just simply wind to the bottom of the post.
Yeah. Well, this has staggered posts. They actually stagger. They get lower as they go down, so you shouldn't, in theory, need one. But it came with one, and
see that. But they just get lower and lower in height.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because this guitar, the two strings that I do have issues with if I go too berserk on the whammy bar, like if it's, it'll be those two every time. Do you know what I mean? And so I probably just wrecked it. Now let's see. Yeah, see, there you go. Miles sharp. It's always those two, and I think it's because of that. It's not the nut, because I can feel it, like when I'm tuning the tuning key, it's moving properly. So
yeah.
But it's interesting, I like the roasted maple neck, and this is one of the reasons I like this guitar so much. It's got that thing, you know what I mean? It's really dark, and it's a big chunky neck too. Like people see Ibanez guitars and they go, it's going to be like I remember a bass player once said to me, here he goes with his shredder guitar. When I turned up to this gig, and I was like, oh yeah, I mean, I kind of get it with the pointy headstock, but otherwise, no, this is chunky, This is almost like a 59. It's not as big as a 59 Les Paul, but it's getting up there. It's got a bit of girth about it. Yeah. Interesting.
Is your neck a polyurethane finish? Or
No,
is it nitro?
no, it's neither. It's an oil finish. Yeah, so it feels like raw wood.
Or like a satin kind of
Yeah, it's like I think Rory said when he did I got the frets replaced, and then when he put the new frets in, he said he used a gun stock oil on the whole lot, because it basically feels like raw wood, and that's what it felt like when it came. And I guess with roasted maple, you don't really need a finish on it. It doesn't need. It's dried.
You're some nitro wear for you.
Oh yeah, there you go. This is showing a bit too, I think.
This one's got the thing starting to wear off now. You can see.
I like that though, with guitars. I don't know if you can see it. I better get to my Porritt Smith back there. It's got that kind of wear, and they feel better for it. You know what I mean? With guitars. I had a question for you too. If you
yeah, sure.
Say you got the gig. This is something that I saw Leon on the Gear podcast. With Leon and Troy, and they were saying if you got the gig with whoever, what would be your rig? So let's try that with you. Say you got the gig with Mark Knopfler. What rig would you take?
Oh shit. Probably. I don't think it'd be too far from what I already have.
Let's set some parameters. One guitar, one amp, one pedal.
Okay, I'll take a humbucker Strat. Okay, I'll take the custom audio OD100 and reverb pedal. What would I go with? Probably a Digitech Polara or something in the loop.
Interesting that you went with the OD100. I wonder why. 2 channels that you can get
2 channels. You've got your clean and your dirt, and you can kind of get both to sound really good. Otherwise, sometimes I always find the drive channels good and the clean channels shit, or vice versa.
And I guess with that kind of gig, because he'd probably be taking most of the solos, right? You'd have to you probably wouldn't need much of drive.
Just have to play some rhythm guitar. And then that, what's that?
Yeah. Actually, a friend of mine actually got that gig with Mark Knopfler, being his second guitar player in London, and his name's Lewis Turner, and Lewis does a whole lot of he does a lot of the theatre shows. That's basically how he makes his living, and as a sub. So he's the guy that walks in cold, sight reads the show down, and just nails the heck out of it. He's amazing guitar player. But he got the Knopfler gig, right, and they did one show, and then COVID hit, and that was the end of it.
Oh, damn.
And he was like, damn, or something. I remember him talking about it, and it was right when Knopfler had switched to Kempers, and he was like, man, I just finished all these theatre shows where we have to use this crap, and now we're here, and because he would walk in, and of course they supply a Kemper with all the sounds already presetted, and they're preset for a Strat, so he would bring his Strat and just plug in and go, Okay, here's another one. You got the gig with Sting.
Holy
what would
shit.
you take?
I would take guitar lessons.
That's a different gig though, right? Because now you're going to solo. Still the black Strat?
So, I'd probably take a 3 single coil Strat. Just so it may do a bit of the policey things a little better. Yeah. And I'd take that Godin nylon string. I'm guessing you'd probably have to use that on that gig. I've got one for you now. What about if you got the gig with Whitesnake?
Oh. I don't have any real pointy guitars, but this is the closest probably thing.
That'll do. That'll do fine.
I mean, it doesn't have to be gear we own. It could be whatever you had, But I'd probably
exactly.
I'd probably take this, and I would take a JCM 800 or a JCM, one of those sort of dual channel switches, and then probably a Fractal FM3 to run in the loop. And then you better get every reverb, every delay, every whatever, or one of those Eventide H90s that pretty much does everything. You'd be able to get, because a gig like that, you'd need chorus for sure. Yeah. You'd need delays. You'd need a bunch of different overdrives, which I reckon you'd be able to get out of one of those, and out of a Marshall, some kind of Marshall, JCM 800 or maybe a JTM, but they're not gainy enough, I don't think, for that sort of thing. Too vintagey. Yeah. Even though I like the JTM.
I think an 800 with a boost in front could do it really well, like a tube screamer in front of 800.
Totally. Or an HX Stomp in the and then you could. Can you run 4-cable method with a HX Stomp?
Yeah.
So then you could have drive channels going before the amp, and then have stuff in the loop as well. There you go.
Yeah. The only thing is with the Line 6 stuff, sometimes I found if you use the channel switching from the HX Stomp as well, then you can run into ground loops. So on the foot switch cable, you got to cut the ground. That sort of thing.
Interesting. Do you know what the likelihood of me ever getting a gig with Whitesnake is? 0.
Never say never.
0. Actually, but I did get booked for a gig with Sting once, and didn't. I don't know if I told you, but it didn't happen. He ended up bringing his band. It was one of those Mission Estate gigs, and he played with the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra, and me and Rhythm Section from Wellington were supposed to do it. And then a couple of months out, he was like, "Oh no, I'm going to bring my band now," and so I was like, "Sorry guys." And we were like, "Oh, damn it!" And actually, I got booked for the same gig with Eric Clapton, and he ended up bringing his own band as well. But Derek Trucks and Willie Weeks and those guys, and I was like, "Oh man, I'd love to have done that gig," but I heard it was a bit of a disaster anyway with the whole, because he's a recovered alcoholic. So
yeah, he didn't want the wine branding or something like that.
Which, I mean, why play at a vineyard?
Yeah. What about the gig with, say, Tower of Power? What would we take there?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Because I was watching a thing of them maybe a month ago, and the guitar player, whoever it was, I don't know his name, but he was playing a Les Paul. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. That's not what I would have thought. So I guess if you're trying to do that, I'd probably take my 520, AR 520, the normal guitar that I use for most stuff. Or I'd take... actually, I'd probably take that Talman. Can I get to this without strangling myself with my in-ears? I think I can. I'd probably take this for a Tara Power gig, because They have some stuff that's sort of ballady type stuff, so believe it or not. So you could do that on the neck pickup and get a kind of a sweeter sound. And then those two pickups is one of my favorite things with this guitar. And I'd take amp wise, I'd take a Dumble Overdrive. Never going to happen.
Because why not?
This has actually got flat wounds on it, so it's not going to sound right, but I go to a clean tone. Come on. So even with flat ones, you can get a funky-ish kind of sound, you know, or even the two pickups. So, you know, you could do it with that. So I'd probably take this, and I'd take probably a twin, because I know those guys play pretty loud. And then you'd really only need an overdrive sound for lead tone, so I'd probably take the new Secret Keeley pedal that I can't talk about yet, but it's awesome. It doesn't come out till mid-March, so it should be coming out soon. But it's like his Muse driver was built on I think he built it on a Blues driver pedal with Andy Timmons. And then I think when you switch the switches down, it's sort of Germanian fuzz type circuit, but low gain Germanian fuzz, something like that. This one's built on two famous circuits too, which I really like it. That lower to mid gain kind of tone, which is what you'd want for a Tower Power solo sound. And that's probably what I do, because you're not going to solo much anyway. On that gig, you're going to be playing rhythm guitar, so I think, you know, two single coil. Yeah. You know, that sort of tone. Yeah.
What about, here's the last one for you. What about the gig with Deep Purple?
Oh. I'd find that one really hard to do. You know why? Because
really?
I think that you'd be getting hated on, right? Those Deep Purple fans are pretty staunch. And Simon McBride, who does it, is like he's a mofo, that guy. I'd probably take my 520 again, or I'd take that one. Right. And and amps wise, again, I think the Marshall kind of thing for that is it's such a classic kind of Strat into a Marshall type sound. Do you know what I mean? And Simon McBride, I don't know if you've checked him out, but he's a bad dude.
I have. Even before he joined Purple, I'd listened to some of the stuff.
Yeah, same. I knew him quite well, and he was really into the Gary Moore thing, so I kind of knew him through that. Great player, really good player. But he plays that Porridge Smith, so he's not really even trying to do the single coil Richie Blackmore thing. So yeah, I'd probably take that, some kind of Marshall, or even the Bassman, if I could crank the Bassman, and you probably could on that gig, right?
Probably have like 6 Bassmans running.
Yeah, exactly.
Bassmen.
Down the mount, which really is like a vintage Marshall-y kind of sound, isn't it? And probably an OCD. Yeah. I think the OCD is probably the closest I've found to that kind of Marshall crunch when you put it in front of a Fender amp that does. Yeah, I actually did a tour of New Caledonia with this guy, this Hammond organ player, and we did Deep Purple songs. Like, that was his concept. He called it Nick Granville and the deepest. Oh, Nick Granville and the Purple Cow. That was funny, something like that, you know. So there were all these billboards around everywhere. My picture, I'm going, you know, with that title. But we played around New Caledonia, and it was drums, Hammond organ, guitar, and a female singer. And we did Child in Time, we did Smoke on the Water, we did what's that called?
Summertime by Ricky Nelson.
Summertime by Ricky Nelson. You know what I mean? These sort of things. It was so much fun. But so we treated them like jazz tunes, where you have a melody and then we have big, long, extended solos, and with Hammond organ, so we had organ left-hand bass, which is way fatter than electric bass. You know, it's like a different frequency kind of thing. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. What about you? If you got that gig, the Black Strat?
One of them. Probably take the 3 single coil one. Treble booster, probably the full tone Ranger and a Plexi.
Yeah,
probably.
I think the Plexi's it, isn't it, for that sort of sound, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you need a hit. You need a booster.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite partial to the Blackmore era years myself, but there's some cool shit that Steve Morse did
Oh
as
yeah.
well. There's a song called "Sometimes I Feel Like Screaming," and I'm pretty sure you've heard that one. Where he just keeps going with that melody. I don't know if you've
Oh
heard
no.
that. The beautiful melody that he plays throughout the song. It just keeps
That Steve
repeating
Morse
itself.
did.
It's like that's
Oh, I
yeah
don't know. Yeah.
yeah. Check that one out. So it's
Man,
a
he was great.
cool song.
The thing I loved about Steve Morse too is that how he had that picking thing he did. You know, he would like pick every note in a way that, like, he articulated everything almost evenly, and they kind of went. Da, 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 da. It was almost like a
Yeah.
machine gun
I
going
think
off.
he used to hold the pick like
Yeah.
this before, with two fingers. Have you seen him recently? I think he was on the Rick Beato episode, I think, if I'm not mistaken, where he talks about how he had to completely change his whole picking thing because of his wrist injury and
Oh
stuff
no, I
like
didn't
that.
know that.
It's pretty amazing, man. Like he still manages to play that way, but he plays in a totally different way now than compared to what he used to. But like hats off to him for just persevering. I would have said like
Yeah, it's really
fuck,
sad he
this
had to
is
leave
like
Deep
too
Purple too,
hard to do.
because
But he found a way of doing
he
it.
had to leave Deep Purple because his wife was unwell, and he
Yeah.
decided to be by her side. And I mean that's admirable. You know, a lot of people wouldn't be able to do that, or just wouldn't. You know, and
Yeah.
so yeah, he seems like he's a great guy and plays his ass off. You know, really great guitar player.
I found out about him because a friend of mine had this cassette called Stress Fest, one of his 90s
Is that
albums.
Dixie
And
Dregs?
no, this was in the 90s. He had an album
Oh, his
with
own album.
I think Dave LaRue and I forgot the drummer's name. But that album kind of led me to finding out more about him. Then I kind of had another friend who had the earlier albums, with the one with Too Many Notes. I think it's called, I forgot the name of the album, but yeah. And then the Dixie Dreg stuff. Now, when I heard the Dreg stuff, it kind of blew my mind because like it was like all those southern bands like the Allman Brothers and stuff, but there was a bit of like that country influence and a bit of the jazz thing going on. Like this nice melting pot. So that was like I heard like all the 70s and early 80s Dixie Dregs albums
No.
again and again and again. Yeah, like huge influence back then. And there was this one live album where they do a killer version of Jessica by the Allman
Oh
Brothers.
wow.
And the guitar and the organ play the harmony. And the funny thing is, I always thought on the Allman Brothers thing it was two guitars, but it's not. It's one guitar and one piano at one point, and one guitar and one organ at another point.
Yeah.
And one point, the guitar is always playing this, right? But then I think the piano goes. Huh. And then the organ comes. One of those. So if you like listen to it closely, you can hear the harmonies are different at the start and they're different at the end.
Oh, that's cool, eh? So they could have been
Yeah.
winging it, right? We're probably just doing it. Do you know?
But apparently, that came out at the time where Dewey had passed away pretty recently. So I think Dickie Betts, he wrote that song with Les Durek apparently, and Les I think thought that he was probably going to join the Allman Brothers. But then Dickie told him, I know we wrote that together, but I don't want you playing on that. I don't want two guitars to be on because it's too fresh from Duane's passing and everything like that. So I wanted to be, piano and guitar.
All right.
Yeah.
I got one more for you. You got the gig with
Yeah.
Katy Perry.
Holy shit. Probably Axe FX or Neural DSP. I'm guessing they're not going to allow amps on the stage.
Yeah, I get they probably don't, right? Or maybe not necessarily don't allow, but for consistency, right? Yeah, so an
Yeah.
XFX or something, or a Neural DSP, and what guitar? Black Strat again? You pretty much could do
I don't
most
know,
gigs with
maybe-
that, right?
Yeah. Though I guess I'll probably maybe just take the Les Paul, I think.
Just for the hell of it.
Just for fun. Yeah.
Because she had some funky kind of stuff that sounds like a Strat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she probably had the best session players come in and track on that stuff, so... and then some of her stuff is sort of rock, but it's pop rock, but it's... You know what I mean? You'd actually have to cover quite a lot with that. So I reckon an XFX or an FM9 or something like that, something with a lot of switches and colors would be really good.
Yeah. My daughter listens to a song of hers called Roar. So sometimes when she's listening to it, I play like some power chords behind as well.
That's cute.
And then she like looks at me.
My daughter used to run around the house and she'd go, like she was 3, you know, got videos of her doing it. And we, for ages, were going, the hell is she doing? And we worked out it was Baby, You're a Firework, you know, and that she was singing that song. But it was, but she go, you had no idea what she didn't know how to speak, so, but she was trying to sing this song. It was really cute. Yeah, funny how they do that, eh?
Yeah. I've been playing guitar to Taylor Swift songs as well. Sometimes, like, my daughter's got into this little phase. I'm hoping it's a quick one.
Yeah.
But I have to say though, like, I kind of can tell like why she is that popular.
Oh yeah.
Because it's hooky AF. You know? Like every little thing, and like just the way the lyrics also kind of appeal to
Shake It Off. I mean, right?
Kids
it's
of
just
that
a great
age.
beat. It's a catchy melody.
Yeah.
How could it not be a pop hit, right? And
they're engineered into, you know, grabbing
totally
the listener.
And that's hard to do. Like people think, oh, you know, pop songs like that, they're simple kind of melodies or whatever, or they're simple chords, so it must make it easy to do it. But it's really, you know, that kind of level of craft to do that is not easy, and not cheap either. You know, costs.
I think basically people dissing on like pop music being too simple. You know, the like the older generation was dissing "Love Me Do" when it came out. You know,
Exactly.
Like,
exactly. Although music now is crap
hell is
compared to
this?
music back in the day, though, right? Let's be honest. No, there's good music now, just like there always was, and there's
It always is,
crap
you know?
too. There's everything. I think there's a lot more crap rises to the top, unfortunately, than probably ever. Mm-hmm. You know, like if you think back to say the 70s and 80s, the pop music of the day, you know, was definitely of a higher caliber than a lot of the pop music, the top pop music. But there's still people doing. I mean, John Mayer's doing good stuff, I think. You know, so like I said, even people like Katy Perry, there's still something to find in there. You know.
Yeah. Though John Mayer and Katy Perry are pretty much like almost like nostalgia acts, like on the fine line of, you know, having an older audience.
Totally, yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, and that's been deliberate on John's part too, isn't it? That whole his whole nod to slow hand, you know, the old yacht rock, Eric Clapton type stuff. So, but there's still stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that's not mainstream at all. That's really great. You know, Jonathan Kreisberg's a guitar player I really like, and I think a lot of his stuff is really very forward thinking. Even still now, I mean, heaps of people. You know, Nick Johnston. You know, in terms of like rock guitar things, that guy. I mean, it's like a cinematic soundscapey type thing that he does. It's just beautiful. And you know, he's never going to be mainstream, but he's still doing stuff that I think is fantastic. You know, yeah.
There was this one artist that came out, I think, in the mid 2000s, and it seems like you may like it because the production is immaculate. This guy called Josh Fix.
Yeah.
I think he was born in South Africa and then he grew up in San Francisco or something like that. But he just did like one album and one EP, and like it's like super high quality, you know. And I was always wondering, like, you know, this is this guy going to like, you know, put out more stuff or whatever. But he kind of just disappeared after that. But if you're like looking to like listen to something, well, it's not new, maybe almost like 20 years old now. But yeah, check out this guy Josh Fix if you can. And
around,
I mean,
there was some good music
heaps
around
of
that
music.
time, though, wasn't there? There was some good. Did you see that one of? I forget the guy's name, but it was on Mason Marangella's channel, the Vertex page, and it was the guitar player played with Sean Colvin with Sonny Came Home and all those songs. What was the guy's name? It was really. I'll look it up now because it's going to bug me otherwise. Man, good guitar player. I'm going to find this. And of course, he did one with Louis Shelton, who I've been aware of for a long time.
Oh yeah. Doesn't Louis live in Australia?
He does, yes. He did one with with Charlie Hunter. John Leventhal.
Oh, okay.
He was on that song "Walking in Memphis" too. He played on that.
Right.
Did a whole heap of really great stuff back in the day. But again, around that same era of the 2000s. They were doing some good stuff, you know. The harmony-rich music.
I think the biggest thing that's different these days is that music is like way more fragmented. So like, there's, huge like very niche genres as well that, have a like almost a cult following.
And production. It's become a lot about
yeah.
production, more so than
Yeah.
playing an instrument, you know what I mean? Whereas like that Sonny Came Home song that he played, that, he was playing mandolin on it and electric guitar and acoustic guitar and stuff, whereas now it's become a lot more about production of that kind of stuff. Even people like Ed Sheeran, who is a guitar player and a singer, and a songwriter, his stuff's become really production heavy, kick drum on all 4 beat type stuff, duff, duff, duff,
Still works though, because like my daughter used to be hooked onto that song Castle on the Hill, which he's still. If you listen to it, the lyrics are all about like his misspent youth, and then my daughter's singing about hand-rolled cigarettes and everything. I was like, we actually know what these words mean.
I got a friend, a great drummer, and he's quite religious, and his boy was running around the house going, "Highway to Hill." Highway to Hill. And of course he didn't want to correct him, because he's like, he doesn't need to know about hell yet, he's only a little boy. I thought that was pretty funny. Highway to Hill. Oh yeah. Yeah, we probably should sign off, I suppose. It's been great hanging, man, and it's been great doing this this sort of wish list of what you would use if you could do these gigs. We should explore it. So if anyone's got questions, hit us up with questions below. We want to answer your questions.
By this time next week, I'll be back and I'll give you a report on how this rig held up.
Yeah. And especially that case, and hopefully it doesn't get broken by the airline.
Or lost.
Yeah, that's always the scary thing, isn't it? That's the thing that bugs me the most about checking stuff in.
Yeah.
It's not it getting broken, it's like it's just getting lost, and you get there and you got no gear.
Though I'm kind of a bit lucky, because in all 3 cities there's like rental backline. So the first gig's got dual rectors, second one's got JCM 800s, and the last one's got JCM 2000s. So I'm kind of like...
Yeah, I mean, in those bigger Australian cities, you can pretty much guarantee. It's like, it's only New Zealand where there's nothing. Or maybe in Auckland. I don't know. There's probably good rental companies in Auckland. There's a few in Wellington, but not much.
The Auckland gig, I'm very tempted to take the Soldano.
Do it.
Because I played on most of those original recordings with the Soldano.
Huh.
And I've got this little 2x12 Marshall cab. It fits exactly on top of that. So it's like a perfect fit, like a little baby stack, And I won't need any effects, just plug straight into the amp. It'll be fun. So let's see if I can pull that off.
That'll be rocking. Do it. Man, I wish I was there to see it. I've been very tempted to try and get up and come and hang with Leon too.
You should, man, if you can. Let's see how it goes.
It's just finding the time and finding... And also flights have just been so expensive, but maybe they've come down now a bit or something. I don't know. I should have another look. Even if just come up for the day, it'd be nice to come up and hang and chew the fat.
Yeah, for sure. Let me know. I can come and grab you from the airport if need be.
Oh, thanks, dude. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, over and out to everybody there, and we'll catch you next week. Please tune in and please have questions.